We spend our entire lives learning things, but have you ever really stopped and asked if you're doing it the best way possible? Today, we're going to dive deep into a single, really powerful idea, and we're going to unpack it all from just one book cover that might just flip how you think about, well, thinking. Okay, so here it is. This is our source for today's explainer. It's the cover of a book called Beyond Content by Dr. Majid Abdullah. And yeah, that title alone is pretty interesting, right? But the real gold, the thing we're going to dig into, is right there in the subtitle: Connecting Concept-Based Learning with Metacognitive Skills. Wow, okay, let's break down what that really means. Right, so what does that even mean to go beyond content? I mean, it sounds kind of profound. It's basically a challenge to the way most of us were taught to learn, just memorizing facts, dates, formulas, all that stuff. This is about moving past simply knowing things and getting to a much, much deeper level of understanding. So here's the plan for how we're going to unpack this. First, we'll nail down what beyond content is really all about. Then we'll look at the two big ideas, those two pillars, one by one. After we see how they link up, we'll get to the most important part, why any of this should actually matter to you. All right, let's get right into the main idea here. Going beyond content. It's really about a huge shift in perspective. It's about moving away from just asking, what am I supposed to be learning? And instead starting to ask, how am I learning this? And even more importantly, why am I learning this? And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the one side, you've got content-based learning. Think about cramming for a history test, right? Memorizing a bunch of random dates and names that you know you're going to forget in like a week. But on the other side, you have concept-based learning. This is totally different. It's all about understanding the big ideas, the patterns that you can use again and again. So let's really zoom in on that first pillar from the subtitle, concept-based learning. This is all about learning to see the whole forest, not just getting lost staring at one individual tree. So what is it really? It's a way of learning where you build everything around huge central concepts. So instead of your brain being like a messy filing cabinet stuffed with random facts, it becomes this amazing interconnected web of ideas. It gives you a structure, a framework to hang all new information on. Here's a perfect example. Think about the French Revolution. Learning all the dates and names, that's pure content. But what if you learned the concept of a revolution? The causes, the patterns, the consequences. Suddenly, that's not just a fact, it's a tool. It's a mental model you can use to understand the American Revolution, the Russian Revolution, heck, even the disruptions happening in technology today. Okay, so that's the first huge piece of the puzzle. Now let's look at the second pillar, metacognitive skills. If concepts are the what you're learning, then this is the how you learn it. And this is where things get really interesting, because you turn your focus inward and basically take charge of your own brain. Metacognition, it sounds complicated, but it's actually simple. It's thinking about your own thinking. That's it. It's the ability to kind of step outside your own head for a second and ask, wait, am I getting this? Or am I just reading the words on the page? This is what turns you from being a passive passenger in your own education to being the one in the driver's seat. And in the real world, it's this active, constant cycle. First, you plan how you're going to tackle something. Then, while you're doing it, you monitor yourself. You're constantly checking in, asking, does this make sense? After, you evaluate what worked and what didn't. And here's the key. You adjust your strategy for the next time. It's learning on purpose. So, we've got these two really powerful ideas on their own, right? Learning concepts and metacognitive skills. But the whole argument of this book, the big idea, is that when you put them together, that's where the real magic happens. So on one hand, you have the what, concept-based learning. This gives you that strong, flexible framework to organize everything you know. And on the other hand, you have the how, your metacognitive skills. These are the tools you use to actually build on that framework and check your work as you go. And when you put them together, bam, that's the formula. That is how you get to a truly deep, lasting understanding. The concepts give your knowledge a skeleton, a structure, and metacognition is the skill you use to build all the muscle on top of it. It's a game changer. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But let's bring it back down to earth. Why should you actually care about any of this? Whether you're a student, a professional, or just someone who likes learning new things, what's the practical advantage? Well, the benefits are huge. For starters, you learn faster, way more efficiently, because you're not getting bogged down in tiny details. You get so much better at solving problems you've never seen before, because you can see the deep patterns. You can actually transfer knowledge from one subject to a totally different one. And honestly, this is the most important one. It makes you a true lifelong learner, which is an absolute superpower in a world that changes every single day. There's this quote that just perfectly sums up this whole mindset shift. The goal is not to cover content, but to uncover it. Think about that. So much of school is just about covering content, getting through the chapters in the textbook. This is about uncovering it, actively digging for meaning and building your own understanding. And that really brings us to the big question, the one I want to leave you with. As you go about your day, trying to learn new things, just ask yourself this. Are you just passively consuming content? Or are you actively, deliberately learning how to think?